wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's good, everyone? Welcome inside the Bucks Film Room podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sampson. You can find me on X or Twitter at Bucks Film Room. I write about the Milwaukee Bucks for Forbes Sports. Thank you so much for joining me again here today. And we have a lot of good stuff to go through. The Bucks are on a 6-game win streak, which is awesome. I feel like we've been waiting for them to look this good all season long. This is probably the best 6-game stretch that they've had, and it's exciting. It's once again fun to be a fan of the Milwaukee Bucks, and what's probably been one of the most frustrating seasons. We're at a high point, and hopefully this is just the beginning. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about how Fear the Deer is back, and the Bucks, they're a mean team, but in a nice way. We're going to touch base on Giannis Antetokounmpo's injury, how that looked as he during his pregame warmups on Monday night against the Clippers. And then we're going to talk about Damian Lillard's drives. We've been talking a lot about Lillard on this podcast in recent weeks, and I don't see any reason to stop that trend. So we're going to continue to talk about Damian Lillard and examine an important part of his game. His shooting gets a lot of attention, but one thing that's equally important to both his personal success and the success of his teams is his ability to get to the rim on a regular basis. So we're going to take a look and share a little bit about what I've heard from around the league, about what the film is saying when it comes to Lillard, and then what are the stats saying about his driving ability this season. So that's today's show. It should be a fun show. Again, anytime you get to talk about a 6-game win streak, including some pretty big wins. On Monday night, the Bucks came off a gritty, dirty, muddy victory over the Clippers, where they're down double digits at one point in the second half, but were able to grind it out without Giannis, without Chris Middleton. They never gave up. And I think that is really that identity that the Bucks are developing right now, is this just grimy team that will muddy up the game, slow it down, play in the half court, and really just take you to hell. And I think they are going to be a very difficult opponent to play in a 7-game series for a number of reasons. They are going to be very, very low on teams' list of who they want to see in the postseason. I think right now, the Bucks are. People don't want to see them. They are a tough team for multiple reasons, and they are going to be bruising to play against. Teams are not going to look forward to seeing them on the calendar or in a playoff matchup. It's going to be a matchup that really will take its toll on the opposing team. For starters, you have Giannis. He's an intimidating guy to play against. Even just one night, even in just one game, his defender leaves bruised and hurt and sore, ice packs all over. They're going to need that ice bath after the game. They're going to need treatment around the clock. That's just after one game. Think about playing him, guarding him 30, 40 minutes a night in a 7-game series. That's defeating, like, literally and physically for your body. That's the number one reason why they are going to be hard to play in a 7-game series, is that you've seen him wear guys down. Several years ago in the playoffs, when the Bucks and the Celtics met back in 2019, kind of when Milwaukee first ascended, you saw Boston run out Al Horford on Giannis. And maybe it worked in that first game when Boston took game 1. But Giannis warmed down throughout the series. Milwaukee took the next 4 games, beat the Celtics in a gentleman's sweep, and you could just see each game Al Horford is getting more and more tired. It was building on it. It was building, and Giannis continued to get stronger and invite that contact, where Horford then was backing away from some of that. It's really difficult to guard a player like that, knowing that he has no issue going through your chest, going through your shoulders. If you're even half a quarter of a step slow, he's going to deliver that blow and that punishment and make the refs blow their whistle, or at least make you feel him. he attacks the rim relentlessly, and especially this year. That's going to be hard for an opposing team to get ready for, especially now considering some of the other dynamics that Milwaukee has, like Damian Lillard. They can't just wall up. They need to be accountable for where Damian Lillard is on the court at all times. You throw Chris Middleton, hopefully he can get back and get healthy in there as well. Malik Beasley is an elite shooter. All of a sudden, it's a lot harder for teams to just pack the paint or build that wall. So that really, Giannis being the battering ram constantly over 30, 40 minutes a night, 7-game series, that takes its toll. Next, you have Pat Beverly, just irritant, NBA's biggest irritant, biggest pain in the ass. And even though in the postseason, he's not going to get a ton of playing time, I would expect or guess his minutes will be around 10, 13-ish minutes, mostly spelling Damian Lillard, maybe a couple of minutes with Lillard on the bench. So Pat Bev isn't going to get a ton of run in the postseason, but when he is out there, he's just going to be bothering the heck out of the opposing team, slapping the ball away, body blow after body blow, bumping into them, talking trash, trying to get under their skin. We saw that against the Clippers a little bit. Paul George knew it coming in, tried his best to stay calm, tried his best to ignore it. But when somebody is that bothersome, you can only do that for so long until you burst. If a lot of these players can't even make it one game without doing that, imagine trying to go 7 games in a 7-game series without freaking out on Pat Beverly. NBA's biggest irritant, and Milwaukee, they can put him on the court. He can absorb some of those fouls. You put him in at the late quarter, if your team's not in the bonus, he can take some of those fouls because you know you're not counting on him to play heavy minutes, where the guys that he's trying to piss off, they can't take those fouls. They can't push back. They can't risk getting attacked because they mean a lot more to their team. So you have Giannis delivering body blow after body blow. You have Pat Bev bothering the heck out of people. And then you have Jay Crowder playing physical defense. He really pales in comparison to Pat Beverly as far as antics and shit talking go, which I guess is something to say. I don't think we've seen prime Jay Crowder quite yet, where he really gets going, really talking to the opponents. Wait till he knocks down some big shots in the postseason. If he knocks down some of those open corner threes that he's inevitably going to get, and he gets going, feeling himself, he'll start talking that trash. He'll start running his mouth, and he'll be another way that the Bucks are going to get teams fired up. He also brings physicality and defense. He doesn't quite have the foot speed that he once had, but he can guard bigger wings, like a Paul George. You saw a matchup against Kawhi Leonard. He can take a Jason Tatum. He can guard those bigger wings. He can match up with forwards, and he can get physical with them. He can body them. It's hard for them, even though Crowder is a little bit undersized at 6'6". It's hard for them to take him down low because of his low center of gravity. So that's another player that just being physical with his opponent. That's what Doc Rivers wants this entire Bucks team to do, is be physical on defense. Use your arms in a legal way. Use your hands in a legal way. Make them feel you. Make them know you're there. Make them feel your presence. That's a big thing that Doc Rivers wants this Bucks team to do, considering that they're older. They're a little bit more unathletic. They're not as young, but they are stronger, they are bigger, and they're broader than a lot of their opponents. And Crowder really embodies a lot of that and brings a lot of that to the table as far as his physicality on defense. And then he's not afraid to back down. He's going to be a guy that's going to be right up in there, mixing it up anytime anything goes down. So you have Giannis delivering body blow after body blow. You have Pat Bev talking his stuff. You have Jay Crowder playing physical defense. And now we also have Bobby Portis. He loves to get going, especially at home. You saw it on Monday night against the Clippers, how he was really feeling himself, had a huge game. He loves to get going. And for him, where I think he needs to figure out that line is, all right, you talked your trash, now the refs are warning you, and it's time to back up. If Milwaukee is going to be public enemy number one, which I think is a direction that they are trending, they are really trending toward a team that other teams hate, that other fans hate. You know, you throw in those 3 guys, but for Portis specifically, he really needs to figure out, all right, I pushed on him a little bit. I bothered him. I poked the bear. Now I need to back away and let the bear explode so I don't get the consequences. I think that's really a tough line to draw, and something that Bobby Portis specifically needs to work on. But he's another guy who grabbed a rebound against the Bulls on Friday night. Took a quick glance at DeMar DeRozan as DeRozan was on the ground, and then quickly took the ball up the court. DeRozan got in his face, got a foul. You saw Bobby Portis give him the little hand, get away from me, like you're not worth my time. So that's something to see. But he's another guy, and he's going to receive. I don't know how much playing time or if he'll receive more playing time in the postseason than Jay Crowder, but those are two guys that are going to be on the court a lot. You throw in Pat Bev he'll play a little bit here and there. So those are three irritants, pests, instigators that the Bucks have right there that, if a team's already taking body blows from Giannis, frustrated with a lack of calls or how many times they're sending Giannis to the free throw line, those three guys are going to stir the pot even more, get teams worked up. And then we add the final ingredient to the recipe, which is Damian Lillard. He's not going to mix it up in the same way. He's one of the more quiet guys in the NBA, but he's going to rip their soul out of their bodies. He's going to take the heart out. As soon as a team is vulnerable, he'll come in with those big shots, those deep threes, clutch shots, really running the offense in the half court and in those high leverage situations to rip the soul out of the opposing team. So really when they're at their lowest, when they're at their most vulnerable, when Pat Bev has come in and riled them all up, here comes the stoic assassin like Damian Lillard to rip their hearts out with deep threes, with methodical decision-making. His decision-making is really great. I was talking with a coach at one of the universities in Wisconsin talking about Damian Lillard's decision-making ability and his basketball IQ. And he shared that he thought that, that's one of Damian Lillard's greatest assets is he knows when the traps are coming. He knows what kind of pick and roll coverages the opposing team is going to run, and he knows how to attack them. He knows how to attack them as an individual, but more importantly, he knows how to attack them as a team. He knows who to get the ball to. He knows how to manipulate his defenders and the help defenders to find an open, quick shot for his teammates. And so that really will be another big part of his game to really just bury the opposing team when they are at their lowest and at their most vulnerable. Overall, I'm excited. This Bucks team is getting back to the fear the deer. Doc Rivers talked about it, I think, in his initial podcast, but talked about how if Milwaukee's mantra or whatever is going to be fear the deer, they need to get back to playing that way. They've been clowned too many times this year, something that I think we've seen more this season than we're used to. I think back to the Indiana Pacers having the most fun they've had in their lives playing the Bucks. Tyrese Halliburton looking down at his watch, imitating Dame time. And really that team had too much fun playing Milwaukee. It should not be this much fun to play the Bucks, and they're getting back to that. They're getting back to that business, being physical on defense, getting their hands, getting their bodies into their opponents, and really making life hell for 48 minutes. We've seen their defense take a huge improvement, a huge step forward. And that's really, I think, going back to fear the deer. You got to be physical. You can't just talk the talk. You have to walk the walk. Milwaukee's finally starting to do that. They're a mean team, but in a nice way for fans, at least for Bucks fans to watch. It's nice to watch this team, this version. It's nice to watch them get mean and get physical with their opponents. The good news is the Bucks are on a 6-game win streak. The not so good news is Chris Middleton is still out with that ankle sprain, although I saw in a picture on Instagram or something like that he was with the team on their road trip because they're about to go, or they left for a road trip, and Damian Lillard had given them some watches, the whole team watches or something like that, and you can see Middleton in the picture on the plane. So that's a good sign. Doc Rivers talked about how Middleton might have come back or had a chance to come back last Friday against the Bulls, but that was unlikely. He missed the Monday game against the Clippers. He's already been ruled out for Wednesday's game against the Warriors. So maybe he'll come back at some point on this road trip. The Bucks have a 7-day road trip starting Wednesday night at the Warriors. That game's on ESPN. Then they play at the Lakers. Then they play at the Clippers, and then they play at the Kings next Tuesday. So a 7-day span, where they have 4 away games against 4 teams who are in the playoff picture in the Western Conference. This will be a very challenging road trip where we will learn more about the Bucks once again and how did they respond. They have a little bit of momentum. They've showed some grit. They've showed some really the ability to not back down. So we'll see what this looks like. We'll learn more about them in these next 4 games. They're currently second in the Eastern Conference as of Wednesday morning. They're 7.5 games behind the Boston Celtics. I went through and looked at Boston's schedule. They have a cakewalk. Milwaukee plays a very tough schedule, especially in March, but April as well. Celtics are the opposite. So I really think there's no chance that the Bucks close that gap completely against Boston. So they're 7.5 games behind the Celtics for the top spot in the East. And Milwaukee's only 0.5 games now behind the Cavs for second place, because the Cavs, they actually beat Boston 105-104 on Tuesday night. So they closed that gap a little bit. So Milwaukee's at 41-21. The Cavaliers are at 40-21. Again, I talked about this the last pod. That second seed, if we're even looking at that, is where we want the Bucks to be. 3 seed would be fine. Orlando Magic are actually now in 4th, tied basically with the New York Knicks. Miami Heat's in 6th, and Philly is in 7th. Something to keep your eye on, especially with Joel Embiid expected to come back at the end of March or mid-end of March. So that's something to keep an eye on. The last thing the Bucks would want is to get that 2 seed and then have to play a Joel Embiid 76ers team with Joel Embiid healthy. The big thing for the Bucks right now, though, injury-wise, talked about Chris Middleton, but it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. He reportedly has been dealing with an Achilles injury for a couple games and was ruled out on Monday after going through his pregame warmups. There's a video that's going out there that you should check out. So he's on the left wing, left elbow extended, about to pull up for a jump shot, and all of a sudden he winces in pain, throws the ball down, turns around and hobbles back toward half court. And later the video shows him trying to stretch out something. It really just looked painful. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about anything. He's listed as questionable for Wednesday night's game. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out that game and at least a couple others. So, all right. So what? You drop a few games in the standings. That means nothing if you don't have a full and healthy Giannis Antetokounmpo for the playoffs. They're 5 games ahead of the Magic for 4th, so they have some breathing room there. They should be extremely conservative with Giannis, especially, coming off this 6-game win streak. Let's just see how this goes. Obviously, if he's ready to go, you're ready to throw him in there. But let's take your time, be super conservative. You need Giannis for the playoffs, not for a March 6th game or March 8th game or whatever it may be. So just something to keep your eye on, Bucks fans. It's not all sunshines and unicorns and rainbows. There is some dark clouds out there. Let's just keep our eye on Giannis. Hopefully it's nothing major. Doesn't appear to be, since he's only listed as questionable, not even listed as out, but something that we will watch here moving forward. So if he is out, that puts a lot of the onus and responsibility back on Damian Lillard. The Clippers in Monday night's game without Giannis and without Middleton really treated him like Portland Damian Lillard, sending him traps, sending him doubles, anybody but Dame. ABD, anybody but Dame, as far as who's going to beat them. And it really gave me and others that vibe of Portland Damian Lillard. Right when he thought he got out of it, here he is right back in that situation. But he thrived in that game. He had a wonderful scoring. Obviously, the scoring was there, but as far as just playmaking and decision making, he was great. He was on fire. He really has a good understanding and a budding understanding of the Bucks offense and what Doc Rivers wants to run, and pulling up the box score. So he only played 42 minutes, but he finished with 41 points and 4 assists and 4 turnovers, which the 4 turnovers, not the greatest, but isn't the worst when you're playing that many minutes, when you have that high of a usage. I know there were a couple of times there where he thought he got fouled on at least 1 or 2 of his turnovers, but that was great to see him leading the offense. He went 13 for 13 from the free throw line. He is going to have to do all of that and more against the Warriors, who are expecting Andrew Wiggins back. One of the keys to Damian Lillard, looking at the film and talking to analysts across the league, is his driving ability. Some analysts think that he's lost a half a step or has lost some speed or burst on his ability to get to the rim. And it's hard. It's hard to share looking at or hard to know looking at the stats alone, because his role in Milwaukee is way different than it was last year, previous years in Portland. He does have a little bit more issue scoring at the rim, that is for sure. He's taking fewer shots within 4 feet of the basket than at any point in his career, according to Cleaning the Glass. So his shot attempts within 4 feet of the basket, which is categorized at the rim, is the lowest percentage of his shot total that it's ever been, again, according to Cleaning the Glass. More of those shots now are coming in the short mid range. So that's categorized as 4 to 14 feet. So that would indicate that he has lost a little bit of burst, right? Like typically you'd be able to get all the way to the rim to finish. Now you can't quite get there. So you have to settle for that shot between 4 to 14 feet. So that tracks, that lines up. His drives overall are going to be the key to unlocking the game for himself and for his teammates. Opposing teams are going to guard him 5-10 feet beyond the 3-point line, no matter what. If he can't beat them off the dribble, if he can't find a way to break down the defense and either score at the rim or suck in the help defenders to find an open teammate, that is all going to be key, especially when Giannis is on the bench or when he's out. He needs to be able to get into the paint, because getting into the paint breaks the defense. So when you get into the paint, a lot of teams' number one goal, stop the ball, protect the rim. So you have at least one guy, if not multiple guys, crashing the rim, crashing the paint, leaving their assignments. So then even if you kick out and they do a good job of rotating over, you're already getting that team cross matched. You're getting them in rotation. They're in chaos. They're scrambling to figure out, all right, where's the ball going? Where is it moving? And so that's really the key, is getting that ball inside the paint, which his drives, coming back to drives, which is what we wanted to talk about to begin this, that driving ability. I looked at it this year. He averages, and again, this comes with the disclaimer, it's not apples to apples. It's probably apples to oranges, considering his different roles on each squad. But his drives are down. So this year, he's averaging 12.7 drives per game, where last year he averaged 16.1 drives per game. His field goal percentage is down about 4% on those drives, from, we'll just say, 57 to 53%. Free throw attempts down about 1 free throw attempt per drive. Assist numbers are actually about the same, and then he's averaging fewer turnovers. So you can see that overall, he's getting to the rim fewer times per game, which again, it is hard to, and I keep coming back to this, but it's hard to compare it directly because he has the ball in his hands less this season than he did last season. So that's just as a starting point. Like Giannis is doing a lot of those drives, or he has that outlet where he can kick it to on some of these pick and rolls. Last year, his usage percentage, according to Cleaning the Glass, was 36.2%. This year, it's at 30.5%, which is the lowest it's been since his third year in the league. So again, he has the ball in his hands less, which would mean fewer drives, which makes sense. But can he continue to get to the rim and finish? That is going to be something to watch. When the Bucks play the Warriors on Wednesday night, or whenever their next game is after this, I want to give you all homework. I want you to watch how many times he gets to the rim, and then what happens immediately after he gets to the rim. Does he score? Does he set up a teammate? Is there a hockey assist? Watch how the opposing defense reacts, and watch how badly they go into chaos mode and scramble mode. That's really the key, is the more you can get a defense moving, the better chance you have at attacking them. When they're set in the half court, when they can set up their rotations and where the help is coming from, that's when a defense is at its most dangerous. So the more you can get them out of that comfort zone, get them guessing, get them having to talk on the fly, the better it's going to be for your offense. It's not always going to result in a bucket, but you're going to get a good look or a great look. That Doc Rivers wants good to great is one of his mantras with the Bucks, is he wants to pass up good shots to get great shots. So that's something that just, I want to give you all homework. Keep an eye on that, is whenever Damian Lillard gets into the hole or gets into the paint, watch how the opposing defense reacts, and watch the quality of shot or how the Bucks get a good look coming out of that, or a great look coming out of that. And I will do the same. I'll post some clips on Twitter after Wednesday night's game as far as some of those examples, so that way we can talk through them and go through them. That's all I have for today's show. Really appreciate you all tuning in. You can find this podcast on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify. Feel free to subscribe, hit that like button. Appreciate you. Catch you next time.